The sound of rain hitting the roof muffled João's trembling voice. He was kneeling on the floor of the empty room, with overdue bills scattered around him. God, if you are still there, I need a miracle. It wasn't a beautiful or long prayer, but it was real. João had lost everything: his job, his family's respect, even his daughter's smile. And now, with an empty fridge and overdue rent, he felt like a failure. But it was in that silent early morning that something began to change. And this story is about how God answers when everything seems lost. João's crisis began months earlier, when his company closed without warning. At 42 years old, he suddenly found himself out of the job market, with a resume that no one wanted to read anymore. He tried everything: handing out flyers, selling sweets on the street, even offering volunteer work in exchange for an opportunity. Nothing worked. But what hurt the most was looking into the eyes of his 7-year-old daughter and not knowing how to explain that. This time, Christmas would have no presents. João was a man of faith, but even the faithful get tired, and he was already too tired to continue. That same week, while searching for leftover food at a market, João was approached by a lady with white hair and kind eyes. She handed him a bag of fresh fruit and said simply, "God sent this." João was stunned. He hadn't told anyone that he was hungry, but he accepted it. At the bottom of the bag was a Bible. That rekindled a forgotten spark. João began to pray again, every day, not asking for wealth, just strength to carry on. And that is how, amid tears, he found something he had lost a long time ago: hope. The following week, as he left the house to look for a job once again, João saw a notice posted on a pole: caregiver for elderly wanted, food and housing included. It was little, but it was all he needed. Upon arriving at the address, he was greeted by the same lady from the market. She looked at him and said, "I knew you would come back. God showed me you in a dream." João was speechless. He barely knew that woman, but there was something about that place. Peace. She hired him immediately, and in the days that followed, João not only cared for the bedridden elderly man, but also began sharing words of faith with him. What João didn't know was that the son of that elderly man was a Christian businessman who visited his father every week. One day, upon hearing João reading a psalm, the man approached him. "Do you really believe in what you're reading?" he asked. João answered without hesitation, "With all my heart." Days later, that same businessman offered him a position in his company, not out of charity, but out of trust. Men with strong faith are hard to find, he said. João accepted, and little by little, his life was being restored. He had a salary again, he was able to provide for his home, but above all, he smiled again. Today, João bears witness in churches and shelters. He tells his story without shame, because he knows it is not just about failure, but about faith. He often says, "When everything seemed lost, God did not give me what I wanted. He gave me what I needed: purpose." His testimony has touched hundreds of lives, including that of the businessman himself, who returned to attending church because of João's faith. And that white-haired lady? João calls her a sent angel, and he never spent another Christmas without gifts. But the greatest gift was what he found on his knees that early morning: the certainty that God never abandoned him. The story of João reminds us that even when all doors close, there is a God who works in the invisible. Sometimes the miracle is not immediate nor brilliant, but it comes in the form of people, encounters, and new beginnings. And it is when we choose to trust, even without understanding, that we see the fruits of faith. Psalm 37:5 says, "Commit your way to the Lord, trust in Him, and He will act." This verse is not an empty promise, it is a living truth. João committed, trusted, and God acted. Today, João lives with less fear of tomorrow. Not because everything is perfect, but because he has learned to rest in God's promises. Every time he looks back, he sees that no tear was in vain. Pain taught him to listen. Scarcity taught him to be grateful, and waiting taught him to trust. He discovered that faith is not about understanding the path. It is about continuing to walk, even when the path seems invisible. And it was precisely on this blind journey, but full of prayer, that he saw doors opening where there were only walls. João's new routine is simple but full of purpose. He wakes up early, prays with his daughter before taking her to school, and at work, he always finds a way to encourage someone. Sometimes it's with a word, sometimes with a gesture. People listen to him because they know he speaks from experience. His story carries weight because it was lived with knees on the ground, and that is why many call him the man God raised from the dust. But João knows there is nothing special about him. The special one is the God who raised him. And if you are watching this video in the midst of pain, fear, or uncertainty, João has something to tell you. Don't give up. Kneel down. Talk to God. He is closer than you imagine. Sometimes, the miracle doesn't come at the time we want, but it comes at God's exact time. João is living proof of that. And if God did it for him, He can do it for you too, because the same God who takes care of the birds takes care of His children, and you have never been forgotten. Did you like this video? Then don't forget to like, comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. May God bless your day.